Hey, my name's Eric, and this is my channel about plants. I used to, or sort of still do, run a YouTube channel about Jeeps. You can see I got a couple over there, but I kind of needed to take a step back from that. I haven't really done anything with my Jeeps for months. But I kind of started gardening and growing trees as kind of a type of therapy. After months of not making any videos about Jeeps and gardening a bunch, I thought, well, maybe I should make some videos about this stuff. Why don't I show you around, show you what I got. I got some succulents and some lousy bonsai. Now, I've gardened a little bit before. I had some tomatoes other years that I grew, and they were alright. A few house plants, like I've always had a spider plant in the house. It wasn't until this spring when my buddy got me a little bonsai tree of boxwood that he built that I kind of started to get into plant stuff more. So let's have a look here. I usually have some bunnies on my lawn. Yeah, there's one. You can see him over there. He's chilling out in the grass. Alright, so here's just some flowers I arranged. You know, half these flowers, I can't even tell you what they are. And they're flowers. They're just pretty. Here's a couple cherry tomato plants I'm growing. They're doing alright. I think I'll get some nice tomatoes off of those. And these are my Delphiniums. They're tall. That soffit's probably about 8 feet up. And those suckers are passing it. And they're beautiful. Look at the colors on these. This is the nicest they've ever come in. This vibrant blue and purple mix. It's just mind-blowing. I love it. This was a Japanese tree peony that my wife lovingly chopped out a couple years ago. I got it for a present from my mom and my sister. She didn't realize it was a perennial, and she thought it was just a dead flower. Oh, there's a hungry bee. It's getting a snack. Here's a little delphinium. I don't know why that one in the middle did so well, because I've got three. I got that one, and the middle one. That middle one is just going nuts. And I got other random stuff in here, some ferns. Watch your step. Yeah, so that's my oh. The other thing I like in this is my hen and chicks. These have been established in here for probably about 6 years, I think. I threw a little nugget of these guys in here, and look how they've spread. It just loves this spot. By the way, this is east facing, and this is the morning, so my flowers just love it out here out front. And these little things, I forget what they're called, but I love them. These are beautiful little flowers, and they seem to be self-propagating through my flower bed, which I really like. Oh, and my hen and chicks, I took a couple in the spring and literally just tossed them in the flower bed here in other spots, and they root immediately. Like, look, these are rooted. These things just love it here. Alright, let's go back to the yard. See what I got back here for you to look at. This is my Dwarf Alberta Spruce. She's taken a beating from me, but I potted this tree and trimmed it up, geez, I don't know, about a month and a half ago, so it's taken. It hasn't died on me. It was sure an ugly tree, man. It had so much like reverse taper and everything else. So I did my best to kind of carve it up a little bit. From what I understand, you're not supposed to wire spruce until the fall, otherwise it kills off branches. If you throw some rocks on there to bend the branches down, it doesn't seem to mind. Yeah, this sucker is good. It's not losing needles. Seems like the roots have taken, and I built this box myself. Just sort of a cheap training box. Anyone who's getting into bonsai or any planting, they know how expensive pottery and flower boxes and things like that are. So I just used some leftover pressure treated scraps from a fence job somebody was doing, and I made this kind of interesting looking pot. And yeah, so that tree seems to like it. Over here I got my pine. This is my Ponderosa Pine. I love this thing. I just picked this up the other day. Middle of July right now, so it's kind of late in the year to be messing with trees too much, but it's probably an okay time to give this thing a light prune, so I did that. Look at the size of the trunk on this. And the size of the pot. It's just astounding that a tree can live in something like this. What I might do is take a tub like this, put some holes in it, and just take this root ball out of the pot here, just dump it into this, this tub without messing up the roots as much as I can. Fill in the rest with dirt, and then I'll take the whole works and half bury it in the ground somewhere. And then if it stays alive in the ground there over the winter, next spring I can pull it out and put it in a pot. And maybe cut it back in the wintertime. I don't know. This thing's huge, but I don't know. It's so beautiful. I don't want to mess with it too much, but it's too big to be a bonsai. And here's this little boxwood. I really like this guy. It's cute. It's got a nice trunk on it. And here's another little boxwood I got at the same time. That one's got a blob of cut paste on there. You can see this one was a disaster when I cut it up, but it stayed alive. So I think I might turn it into something cool if that heals, and just leave her in this pot for now. Over here we got their standard bonsai that everyone buys, the ginseng. I just thought it was cute, so I got it. Little jade plant I grew from a cutting. A cotoneaster. I like this little thing. It's cute. It's got a nice little root base on it too. Here's a commercial bonsai cotoneaster I bought. I believe this is a Peking cotoneaster. It's interesting how different they look. They're both cotoneasters, but the leaves are so much tinier on this guy. And here's my Ficus benjamina, a zigzag ficus. I like this guy a lot. I just got it too. Honestly, everything I'm showing you guys, I just got this spring, so I've had it less than a year, a few months at best. I think this is a ginkgo plant. I can't remember. It's a funny little plant I got. Another one of those, greenhouse pre-made commercial bonsai type thing. I like this little plant. It looks like a little palm tree. I think it's cute. This is a Juniper. It's hanging in there. This is the first thing that I would call a bonsai that I made myself, and I gave it a hard root pruning, and geez, I beat the crap out of this poor thing, but it's not dead yet, so I think it'll make it. I think the problem was the soil I was using. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm getting closer, and back then the soil I used was just shit. Literally, it's just mud. So this guy it's basically been wet since I planted it, so I've just been trying to not water it and let it dry out, and it's getting there. Here is my garden. There's my beets. Oh yeah. I got beets. I got some cucumbers, some more cucumbers here. I got some, this is kale, I think, and then this is parsley. It's a small garden. I tried out these. This is the first year I've used these boxes. I really like them. They work good. They've got a little water reservoir in the bottom so that the plants don't dry out. You still have to water them from the top, but but not as often. It's not the kind of thing where you come home from work and your plants are all wilted because it's a hot day. Fill that bottom with water and it stays cool and humid. This is a raspberry plant that I rescued from my mom's garden, and it looks like hell. And it was driving me crazy because I was like, well, raspberry plants grow like weeds. Why does this thing look like crap? And then the other day, I caught my rabbit pulling leaves off of it. So, it's okay. It's just a stupid raspberry. So, I'd rather she chew this than anything else. So I just let her do it. These are kind of dumb, but just for fun, I thought I'd plant some ivy cuttings. I pruned my ivy hard this spring, and they rooted, and so I thought I'd plant them in pots and see if they're trainable, if I screw them up or lose them or whatever. They're garbage, doesn't matter. Cheap, they didn't cost me nothing, but some of them kind of have interesting trunks. Like this one's almost like a cascade style. Let's go look at the greenhouse. Alright, so next to the greenhouse I have, you could call it the graveyard, or the intensive care unit. It's more like a graveyard, really. I've got half-dying cuttings, and here's another juniper. This came potted with that other juniper I showed you guys, and I don't know, this thing's like dead, but I'll just leave them. Same with these. These are maples. I thought these cuttings took, but then they just died on me. So, and they're kind of hardwood. It shouldn't be a shock to me that they died. Yeah. So let's not look over here, that's embarrassing. Alright, so at my greenhouse I got my standard, you know, water barrel here that saves me a little bit of money on my water bill, which is awesome. And it's way better water for the plants than the city water I have here. Let me just shut this guy down here. That's my little homemade fountain, making some humidity in here. I'm going to have a more sophisticated water distribution system eventually. I think I'm going to build it this year. It might happen next year. But yeah, just to have a little more capacity for my rainwater and to be able to cycle it through in here to help control the humidity and the temperature. Alright, let's start at the beginning. This is my sick little cedar. This poor little guy. I don't know. It's, again, another situation where I use totally terrible soil for it. It's like mud. And this thing is, look, it's still damp. It's so damp. I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing. I'm afraid if I dig it out now, I'll kill it. But if I leave it in here, it might die anyway. Like the roots haven't taken. And she's yellowed quite bad. So I threw it in here in the hopes that it'll dry out. And maybe it'll recover in time for the winter. But I have a sad feeling it might not make it, which is too bad because I like this tree. It's cute. Here's my snake plant. My mother-in-law's tongue, as it's often called. It's huge. This thing is like, it's probably about 5 feet tall, maybe more. And it's doing pretty good. I think it was getting a little bit overwatered. It was getting these little brown spots popping up on the leaves. And yeah, some of them are showing some distress. My rabbit came through and actually chewed this when she was younger, about a year ago, so there's some leaves that have bite marks on them. I don't know where they are. Oh, right here. Yeah, she did this, that crazy rabbit. Don't buy a rabbit, they're terrible pets. Here I've got an ivy growing. This ivy was growing here before I built the greenhouse. This wall of my house that it's built up against. This is my bedroom wall behind here, actually, and it gets so hot in the summertime because this faces south. I had planted ivy to keep it cool, and it worked. So when I built the greenhouse, I just thought, well, the ivy can kind of do the same thing in here, offer a little bit of sunshade in the summertime, and add some humidity because of the plant mass. And it seems to be working pretty good so far. And then come wintertime, if I want to use this thing, all that foliage is going to fall off, and the windows will be completely clear and open. So more sun in the winter, less sun in the summer. Okay, down here, this is my Meyer Lemon. And it's got a nice little bud on it that just opened up. Little flower here. Pretty little flower here. Now, the only trouble with this is I believe this is a graft. And I think it's grafted right here. Which is a pretty good graft. You almost can't tell it because the bark matches. This might be another root from a Meyer Lemon, which is what they do sometimes, with a sweeter variety up top. So this flower looks like it's coming out of the root part of the graft, which means this may not be, they might be good lemons, they might be gross. I guess I'll find out. Yeah, and the only reason I started to wonder about that was because I noticed that there's thorns on these branches, but there's no thorns on these branches up here. For 22 bucks Canadian, which I thought was a heck of a deal. And then I got this guy, his friend, and this is a Calamondan, but it's a little mini dwarf orange. It's got lots of fruit on it, actually. This is my Blazing Elf maple tree. I love this little maple tree. It's adorable. I picked it up from a nursery a couple months ago and have proceeded to hack it to bits. It had the worst growth. It must have been jammed in beside a bunch of other trees in the nursery, because these things are supposed to grow almost like a weeping willow. They grow super long shoots and they hang down. But because this was crammed in, they were all growing up and in, so all the branches were like growing into themselves, and it looked terrible. So I had to cut a lot of that out, and she's got a long way to go, but I think it's gonna be a nice little tree. Look at this, we got a little bud down here. Amazing. Here is an aloe plant that was very, very sick, and seems to be doing pretty good now. And I got some jade cuttings in there living with it. Some more succulent cuttings, boxwood cuttings, a dead spruce tree. Cuttings for my Christmas cactus. This thing, I haven't identified it yet. If you know what it is, let me know in the comments. It's such a pain identifying succulents because there's so many. These are lithops or buttstones or split rocks or whatever all the goofy names are. Here's some jade. I think people call these Shrek plants. It's the Gollum variety of jade. Here's a little maple I pulled out of the ground like a month ago. It doesn't look like it's doing too good, but I'm gonna give it a chance. I'll tell you, this maple I rescued from beside my garage. It was growing under the fence and it had these bright crimson leaves. I thought it was amazing. So I dug it up, and it's dropping its leaves, but it may survive because I dug up another one about 2 weeks prior to that, a little bit bigger, but same idea. A maple tree grown under a fence, but it didn't have the red leaves. And this one dropped all its leaves too as soon as I dug it up. But as you can see now, it's quite happy. It's doing very well. And if this guy can survive and get older, this trunk is sure going to be interesting. What a crazy trunk on that, hey? Oh, here's this boxwood that my buddy gave me, my very first bonsai. I'm holding out hope that it'll come back to life. It's not dead. I can tell because it keeps trying to bud back, but then every time it does, the buds die. Oh, look, here's one. There's a little bud right there. It might grow, but most of them just seem to dry out. I don't know what to do about it. So, here's a plant I'm growing. It's probably not legal in some places. Here's a little cedar. This was a stowaway on that big cedar I bought. Variegated boxwood. Or no, variegated dogwood. My apologies. And this guy's alright. I don't know how I feel about dogwood. This thing's hanging in there though. This is a Japanese willow. And this is those ones that has those super pretty leaves on them, like the multicolored tips. And something happened to it when I transplanted it, and it dropped all of its foliage and a bunch of the branches died back. But as you can see, she's starting to come around. This is another one of those willows. This was I got this one at the same time as the other one. I did the same thing. Dropped everything, lost a bunch of branches. This one was quite big too. But this one's got some buds too, so I'm gonna leave it. Here's some more jades. That first jade I showed you earlier was actually a cutting from the top of this guy. Because when I first got this one, I planted it in just this tiny, tiny little wooden pot I got. And it was too top heavy, so I chopped the top off. Threw it in a pot and it turned into a plant on its own. Jade cuts like roots super easy. So if you have a jade plant, save your cuttings because they make good gifts. And yeah, this guy's real happy. Just transplanted it. Same with this one. But I transplanted it and gave it a hard prune because it's just had these huge, out of control leaves. Obviously overwatered, but that's how greenhouses do it. They just water stuff like crazy. Here's another little ivy, little cutting I planted in a tiny, tiny pot. And this is a sensitive plant, a mimosa plant. These are really cool. This is just a little guy I picked up at the greenhouse. I couldn't help myself. It was so cute. The neat thing about these is you touch them and they close up. Isn't that cool? Yeah, it's so neat. And yeah, it's got lots of new growth up here. This thing's quite happy, even though I stuffed it in this teeny tiny little pot. This is, I don't actually know what this is. I believe this is a type of jade. I'm probably wrong. Someone correct me. I don't know what this thing is. I thought I knew, but I think I was wrong, so it's still a mystery. Somebody out there probably knows. This is a bear's paw, I believe it's called, and that's a cute little plant. I like this guy a lot. This is an experiment, sort of. This is called a lemon spurge, and this is the type of shrub that can grow here, actually, outdoors. And I wanted to just see if I could train it to live in a pot. The trouble with this is I planted it in clay kitty litter, like a lot of people do, and it didn't work out. The soil, it's almost like it's turned into cement. And when I water this thing, the water just sits on top and it takes forever to soak in. So I don't know if this guy's going to survive in it or not. I'll do my best to keep it alive until I can repot it. So kitty litter, yeah, doesn't always work out. If this video gets a little bit of attention, I might share a little secret I figured out. A way to turn kitty litter into a useful soil amendment. Because this is terrible. You don't want to do this. This is junk. Strawberries that are growing. These are cuttings from that mystery peony out front. I thought I would see what they would do. So far, they haven't died. They've been sitting in these pots for about a week, and they're funny because they'll perk up, and then they'll lay down. And then they'll perk up, and they'll lay down. And they do that every day. This little spruce forest is all trees again that I rescued from beside my garage. And when I say beside my garage, I'm talking about over there. That kind of no man's land, back where I leave my dying stuff. Yeah, further back there, there's moss and little saplings and all kinds of stuff growing. So yeah, I saw all these guys growing there, and I thought I'd dig them up, and they seem to be thriving. And I got some burpee strawberries, and these are loving it in this greenhouse. Man, that's my greenhouse. It's freaking hot in here, so I'm gonna get out. But if you guys are interested in seeing more about how I built this, maybe I'll make a video about it. I got a couple other things I'm going to show you guys. Maybe I'll show you if I do some repotting or pruning in the future. I'm really into this bonsai stuff, and I really don't know what I'm doing yet, but I'm learning, and if I keep at it, maybe I'll have some nice trees after a while. But if you're in the same boat and learning, subscribe, and we'll learn together. If you know a thing or two about this bonsai stuff or gardening, or you have any tips, constructive, friendly tips, leave them in the comments below. Nasty, snarky know-it-alls will be promptly blocked, so don't waste your time. Alright, I really appreciate you watching. You have a fine day.